So one of you sent me this video, and let's go ahead and address this particular situation about Cuba.
Real. There are things happening in Cuba that nobody talks about, and if any of you have the opportunity to donate or to go and bring things with you, do it. And so, yeah, there's a reality about Cuba. Love you guys. Ciao.
Primeramente, este video is not meant as an attack, a judgment, or condemnation to those people who feel it in their hearts that the best way to help Cuba is to go to Cuba and donate and take, cosita, dulcecitos, carrito, cosita papel, pads, etc. This is not that. However, this is a video shining light on the Cuban reality that has caused Cuba to be where it is right now. It is true, there's a reality in Cuba that people fail to mention. And a lot of the people that go to take donations to Cuba, because again, they feel it in their hearts, that's the right thing to do to help the people of Cuba, they fail to realize or to acknowledge, if they do realize, they fail to acknowledge that Cuba is a dictatorship. It's been in a dictatorship for 60 plus years, and that is the root cause of all of Cuba's problems. Now, when it comes to poverty, let's pause here. When it comes to poverty, Cuba is not the only place where extreme poverty exists, okay? So when we're talking about poverty, y el dolor que te puede causar un niñito que ve un carrito o que ve un caramelo for the first time, you could see that in any Latin American country, or any country for that matter. It doesn't have to be in Latin America. I remember in the Dominican Republic, hace muchos años when we used to live there, estábamos en un restaurante and a little kid, like 5 years old, approached the table and told my mom, Doña, usted va a botar eso, usted ya terminó de comer, because he wanted to take the leftovers and put them in a little bag to take them home to his family. We see in Mexico, at least when I went to Mexico, but you see it in many countries, the children que son 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 añitos, not going to school-age children, but they're working, selling souvenirs to tourists, etc. And they're so surprised, to see certain things that you take, you bring from the U.S. There are many places in the world where children are surprised to see just running water, just fresh water. So poverty is nothing new, and it's not unique to Cuba in particular. You know what is unique to Cuba? 64 years of a communist dictatorship. That's what's happening. And so, excuse me. And so I think it's very important we acknowledge that. Because when we say that we're helping the Cuban people by taking donations to them, we're just putting a little Band-Aid on top of a cancerous terminal tumor. And a lot of times we don't realize that, or we don't want to realize, because people say, no, yo no me meto en política. I'm just here to help. I'm just here to help the people. I don't bother with the politics. But the reason why the Cuban people are in the situation they are right now, it's because of the politics. And when we cooperate by traveling to Cuba, we are actually prolonging the suffering, because every single dollar, every single cent that is invested for and within Cuba and for Cuba, unfortunately, it ends up ultimately benefiting the Cuban dictatorship. Those same people that you're taking little candy to, their suffering is being prolonged as a result of a huge effort of a whole community, international, both Cuban and non-Cubans, both exile and foreigners, that feel it in their hearts that the right thing to do is to continue to take donations. I want to bring awareness to the best way we can help the Cuban people. And a lot of people don't want to do it. It's the easiest way. Pero como yo no me meto en política, I'm not saying it's this creator's particular case. I'm saying what I hear over and over and over again. Yo no me meto en política. The best way to help the Cuban people is to give them the visibility they want. They're fighting for their freedom. And by just taking donations, we're not really helping them fight for their freedom. They want the visibility. They want the world to know they're fighting for their freedom. And it's about time that we respect that and help them in that fight. That's what we need to do. That's the Cuban reality. We just can't keep pretending that we don't see the reality. And if we really do want to help again, the way to help is to give the Cubans the visibility that they need and to let the world know that Cuba has a dictatorship, and the poverty in Cuba is derived from a particular political situation. And we keep closing our eyes to the fact that every time we travel, we contribute to that situation getting worse. In Cuba, those little kids that today smile with un carrito or a piece of candy, tomorrow they don't have a future in that country. Those kids, that mother who smiles today and says thank you, and I'm really sure they are very grateful when you bring some diapers or some pads their way, they're very grateful, but that doesn't fix that in the future they may be imprisoned for thinking differently. Because whatever we take to Cuba today to give them like a little smile, to make them feel a little better, momentarily un paquetico de azúcar, un paquetico de aceite, will not take from prison, will not liberate from prison the hundreds of political prisoners that we currently have in Cuba. Cubans are waking up to their own reality and are building the courage to stand up for themselves, and the message is clear coming from Cuba. Libertad, freedom. They want freedom, and the best way we can help them to achieve that freedom is to encourage them to continue to fight for it and give them the visibility they need in front of the world. The world still doesn't believe that Cuba is a dictatorship. The world still believes that Cuba is a paradise, and the best way we can help them is to let the world know this is the reality that they're fighting for. We're here for them. We're here for them. But I mean, it doesn't seem like the message gets through to a lot of people, and they continue to, provide this narrative and continue to drag on this mentality that Cuba's like any other country, and we should just continue to, give them little patches, little band-aids as they are completely dying from this terminal situation, because there's no solution for Cuba. There's no future for Cuba under communism. That's the reality.